In this presentation, we're going to go through how you record a sprint race. And the first thing you need to do when you set up a sprint race is go into Setup, go into Other Settings, and you need to set the format to Sprint. Once the format is set to Sprint, when you go out to the dashboard, you'll notice that the Sprint Finish button is now active. To record the initial time trial, you're going to record that as you would any other interval start race. You'll set the start times, and you'll set up the bibs, and then you'll go into Finish, and I've already recorded the times for all of the skiers from which we can find the top 30 skiers, and then the results will show up just like any other results, with the one exception is that we break ties arbitrarily. We cannot have ties in the top 30 because the placement determines which heat you're in. So we arbitrarily break ties to set up the initial heats. So once you've done your initial time trial, you can then go into the sprint finish area and you can set up the heats for the actual sprint. Now you have a couple of options here. We support both only an A final and an A and B final, and we also support lucky losers, or you do not have to use lucky losers. Now lucky losers requires that you record all times accurately, because it will be the fastest times from the previous heats that will qualify for the lucky losers. So those who didn't make the heats but have the two fastest times, or the two fastest non-qualifiers, will move ahead. If you're not using lucky loser logic, the times are not as important because it's really only the place that you need. So now what we're going to do is we're going to build the heats. We're going to use only an A final, and we will use lucky loser logic just to demonstrate how it works. So you build the heats, and you can see when you build the heats that it creates 6 places for each heat. Now if you're not using lucky loser logic, you would then delete the extra skiers, and you would also delete 2 skiers in your 2 finals, your A final and your B final. We only have an A final. You can see we've marked the lucky losers in red here. Alright, so once you've got the heat set up, and I should note that you can actually add an entrant. If you can see these add an entrant buttons here. If there is some kind of protest or some kind of issue where you want to have 7 people in a heat or whatever, you can manually add an additional person. You can also delete if for some reason somebody decides to drop out or whatever, so if you have fewer people. So this sets up the rough structure, but you can adjust it manually. Once you have the heat set up, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to actually take the top 30 finishers for the first round. So you'll go to Set Up Quarterfinals, and what that does, you can now see the names are listed. That takes the first 30 skiers, assigns them bibs automatically based on their place, and you can see that these numbers over here on the right are essentially the rules or the mapping of the people from each heat. And I'm not going to go through the details there, but you can manually adjust. If the rules change slightly as to what place goes in which heat, you can adjust these manually if you wish. So now we have our top 30 skiers broken out into the various heats, and so you can go in and record each heat. Now again, I want to remind you, if you're doing this in the cold, you should have hand warmers, because the iPad and the iPhones will not detect your selections if your hands become cold. And the other thing is that you should not assume that you can record accurately down to tenths of seconds using this system. This system really is only accurate within a second. So if you are using lucky loser logic, you're going to have to either have somebody else doing official time or manual time, and then you can put the time in. Or if you're not using lucky loser logic, as long as you select people in finish order, you're going to be fine, and that will determine who moves to the next heat. So what we're going to do is we'll clear the clock. We'll set it at 2 minutes, let's say, and then as the racers finish, you can record them. Now you can see I have 2 people finishing at 2:04. When I set the place, it arbitrarily broke the tie to force a unique place for each. So we have 6 places. Also note that you can use the bump buttons here. So if I want to, let's say, add a 10th here to say that this person really didn't finish at the same time, I can reset the place, and you can see they changed. So now I have the 6 places, and that's the primary criteria for moving people ahead. And again, if I am using lucky loser logic, I'm going to want to have at least the 3rd place finisher have accurate times, because that'll be compared to the other heats. Actually, you really want at least the 3rd and the 4th place, because you may have both lucky losers coming from the same heat. Alright, so we're now going to go and we're going to record the other heats So we'll do the other quarterfinals, but we'll not bother recording that in this presentation. So I will return once I have set up the results of the other 4 quarterfinals. All right, so I have now recorded the 5 quarterfinal heats, and if I scroll down, you can see that there are times for each of the 5 heats. So the next thing I want to do is, since I am using lucky losers, I'm going to select Set Lucky Losers. Now what this does is it uses this column here, the lucky loser column, and actually orders all of the skiers from places 3 through 6 in the order that they finish. And you can see that the top non-qualifier, the top person in 3rd place, was in the 3rd heat here, and if we can also scroll down and find who the next place was. So this is the universe of people that are going to be used to pick the lucky losers, and you can see here it is the person in the 4th quarterfinal who is the 2nd lucky loser. So once I have selected the lucky losers, or actually all I have to do is order them, I can then set up the semifinals. Now setting up the semifinals, what you'll see is if we scroll down to the semifinals, I've now set up the semifinals, and you can see again the mapping of the places from the previous round, and you can also see the 2 lucky losers are listed here, and one of them actually was a late entry. You can see here it doesn't even have a last name, but the bibs are clear and we know who's in the next heat. So at this point we then go through the same process that we did before. We'll go into each. What we'll do is we'll set these again to roughly 2 minutes, and we'll record these and set the place. And again, if I wanted to, I could bump the times around to change the times if I wanted to put the accurate times that are needed. And then we will exit out of this one. Since we only have 2, we will record this. It doesn't take but a moment. So we'll go to 2 minutes. And we've done that. So now we're ready to go to the next heat, the final. And what we're going to do is we're going to take these 2 and we're going to set the lucky losers for these 2 heats, and we can see that both lucky losers came from semifinal S1. And so when we're ready to do that, we can set up the finals, and then when the finals are set up, you can see we've identified the 2 lucky losers. We can go into the final and we would record it just like we did the others, except actually let's clear this, set it back to 2 minutes, and we will do the finish and set the place. Alright, so once all of the heats have been done, we actually have a special sort of results. You can do the initial time trial results with the normal results report, but the results for the sprints are done in this nice color-coded format, so you can see all of the qualifying times for each round, and you can see that the final down below gives you the final place of how everybody did. And this uses the same logic we have for all of our reports. You can instantly email it, but it does break out each round in this color-coded fashion, so it's easy to sort of follow the entire race. That is all you need to know about setting up sprints. I have demonstrated here under a Windows environment using the iPad windows. So the iPad windows are exactly as we've seen here. You would obviously be selecting rather than using a mouse, and it's also supported on the iPhone, but because of the limited real estate, there are a few more windows that are needed. And this ends this presentation.